No matter the scale or scope of work that we choose to take on, either as firm owners or as employees, parts of another design firm, at the end of the day, the vast majority of us aren't selling products. We're not selling widgets. we're selling a service. We're selling a working relationship. And to that end, building your personal brand, after all, people buy from people. They don't necessarily buy from brands when we're talking about the service industries such as ours. People buy from people. And building your personal brand is one of the most powerful endeavors that you can take on. Now, it's also potentially one of the hardest, one of the most challenging, certainly as I've found over the last couple of years. But this week, I want to talk about 5 tips to keep in mind as you build your personal brand. Stay tuned. Giving architects and landscape architects the tools and strategies to be seen, heard, and valued in the marketplace, and telling the stories of leaders building thriving design firms and attracting their ideal clients. This is From Architecture to Profitecture. I'm your host, Jay Krakowski. Let's get started. Fellow and future Profitex, hello. How are you? Welcome to the show. And today we're talking about building a personal brand. Not just your firm's brand, not just the brand of the office that you may represent, but your personal brand. And 5 tips to keep in mind as you either begin to do that or continue that from previous work. Before we get into those, let's talk about the question that I started to answer in the intro here. Why bother? Why build a personal brand? Why not just sit behind your CV, behind your resume, behind your portfolio, and let that do all the talking for you? Well, your personal brand is something that will follow you from not just from firm to firm, but also as your interests change. Over time, you may not want to be the face of your firm anymore. You may enter into a partnership. You may go back to being an employee for whatever reason that might be. You may have been forced out of being an employee this past year with the pandemic and all. But your personal brand lets potential collaborators, potential clients know who you are and what you stand for. And that's something that can never change. And even more important than that is that there's only one of you in the entire world. So why not start to work on the skills to amplify that, to showcase that, so that you can start to infuse that into whatever work you decide to take on. Or if you decide to start selling widgets or products, you've got that other level of branding that can make a connection with potential customers, with potential clients. It's really been a powerful exercise for me, just as a personal development thing, when I decided to make that switch from simply being JWK Design and hiding behind that logo, to be honest with you, to start to build this personal brand of Jay Krakowski and now Profitecture by Design. I feel like it's strengthened, my knowledge of who I am. I guess that's the best way to put it. But it's tricky. It's tricky. It's not just skills. It's not just external skills. It's not a piece of software. It's not improving your portfolio. It's internal work. So I want to go through 5 tips this week to keep in mind as you do that. The first one: plant your flag. What do I mean by that? That means whatever you are, not just whatever you're good at, but whatever you're passionate about, and mixing that with what you do and what you're good at. Stake that claim. You have to take it for yourself. No one's going to give it to you. No one's going to say, "Hey, you're really good at this, and you're really good at this. You should make a brand, or your personal brand is ABC." No, you have to claim it. You have to take it for yourself, because as I said before, there's only one of you, and it's up to you to take those characteristics and to take everything you're passionate about and work on packaging that up and showcasing that to the world. Yes, there are more traditional elements of branding that come into this. Yes, there's colors, and of course, my backdrop has almost zero color. That's a goal for 2021 is to work on the background of this, so that we're not just in whites and grays. But hey, there's lighting, there's your voice. Now, if you're listening on the podcast, I've got my voice here. If you're watching on YouTube or or on the live stream on Facebook, LinkedIn. We've got the video. It could be your writing voice. If you're writing for medium.com, if you are writing to industry publications or your local AIA, ASLA chapter, if you're presenting yearly at conferences virtually or in person, hopefully in person this year, right? Or even just coming down to the filming style, the lens you use and the setup and all that. That's all part of branding, but it's more so about who you are, not just what you do. And part of the biggest struggle that I had in planting my flag, figuring out the message that I wanted to deliver here, was the notion of imposter syndrome crept up. And if you haven't heard that term before, it's, for lack of a better term, it's, who am I to be doing this? There's already an architect that does this online. There's already a landscape architect who's putting out this type of content. So who am I now to come in where I don't have the same level of experience that he or she does, where I haven't perfected my message or my look on camera? So who am I to be even starting? And it really comes down to a question of permission. Why do you think you need permission to get started? Why do you think you need permission to compete with someone when maybe you haven't been doing it as long or at all, or you don't have the experience? You have permission. You have my permission. There you go. It's really that simple. You just need to decide. You just need to decide to take it. You decide to stake your claim and build that personal brand. And no, it's not going to be perfect right off the bat. It never will be, to be honest with you. But you just need to start. So you need to focus on one thing. Pick one thing. Pick one aspect of your practice, of your life, that you want to start to highlight. And yes, it can change over time, but stick with one thing. Don't create content that's about your architectural practice and about model RC cars and about the 3 restaurants that you got takeout from in the last month. Try to focus the content that you're producing so that the brand feels more coherent and cohesive. But just get started. Just get started. And number 2 is get proactive. After you make that decision to go step out and create that personal brand, you need to be proactive. And again, for lack of a better word, it's pitch, pitch, pitch. You need to be pitching yourself. And that is something that I've had to get comfortable with as a recovering people pleaser. As I like to say, the idea of promoting myself, of being in the spotlight, even if it's just a little spotlight here above my computer screen, it's something to practice. It's not natural for everyone. It really isn't, especially for a lot of our professions. Introversion is probably the majority, right? So the idea of pitching yourself, of selling yourself, isn't always comfortable. But the notion that I have adopted is that selling is serving, that the world needs us. The world needs our skills and our personalities, and to not take the leap, take the chance, make the effort to put that out there it's selfish. It's keeping our gifts from our clients, from the world, however you want to say it there. And another thing that I don't remind myself nearly enough of is that the best hitters in baseball, the best players in baseball, typically their average is a 320, 330 for the real sluggers. So that means that 7 times out of 10 when they step to the plate, they either strike out or they ground out or they fly out. If you don't follow baseball, you may not know those terms. Anyways, they're out. They're back sitting on the bench. So translate that to marketing. 8 months out of the year, the content that you produce, it may fall on deaf ears, but it may not generate a lead, may not generate a phone call, may not generate a project. Can you stomach that? Sit with that for a second. You're putting out 8 months of marketing content, and it's not necessarily getting you a return. That can be hard to swallow. That's why not everyone's doing this. That's why it's so few that are kind of broken through, especially for any level of fame or income or impact. It's not only a lot of work, but it's seeing the long game. It's taking the long game, and you need to be proactive to keep up with that. Can you stomach 7-8 months of content before something turns around? Now, when a big project, when that 6-figure commission comes in, when that, dream house in a dream location comes up and the client wants you to design it, man, isn't it worth it? Doesn't it just make your quarter or even your year, depending on the project? Does it allow you to bring others along with you as contractors or even as employees? So yeah, getting more at bats, being proactive about stepping up to the plate more, but being willing and ready to fail 7 out of 10 times. It's a mind shift. It's really a mind shift, but you do need to be proactive about it. And tip number 3 is not just being proactive, not just having a flurry of activity, of outreach and marketing, networking. If that's not sustained, if that doesn't last over time, that's also not going to help you to build that brand. So being consistent is number 3. So yes, you need to be proactive, but at some level, at some rhythm, you need to be regularly in people's ears, in front of their eyes, or whether that's on video or in the written word. In this case, it's a weekly podcast. I've been putting this out weekly. Did I skip a couple weeks in 2020? I did. There were extenuating circumstances, right? But for the most part, I'm here weekly, and it's important, and it's not necessarily that people are depending on me to deliver at a certain time, certain day every week, but it's that repetition. We learn through repetition, at its most basic, like riding a bike or identifying family members. It's repetition of so being consistent and striving to show up regularly it's critical. It's critical for building brand. Again, not just for your firm's brand, but now for your personal brand. And that could be as quote unquote infrequent as a monthly blog post. Maybe you're only posting to Medium once a month. Maybe you're only posting on your website once a month, or sending a monthly email newsletter. But your clients and eventually your subscribers, your followers, your fans will come to depend on, to expect that sort of regular contact, as frequent or infrequent as it can be. You don't need to be on Instagram stories every day, unless it's something you love, and unless it's a platform that you love to be on. Go for it. I mean, Instagram makes it really easy with the stories feature to be consistent, because you push one button. You push a button on your phone, and whatever content you make, especially if it's just a live or a quick video, and you can be done in 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Another metaphor that I just picked up yesterday, and this is from the vlog of Ryan Serhant, the real estate mogul, really, in New York, is the metaphor of a sandcastle. Every day, and in the case of a sandcastle, twice a day with the tides, it's going to get completely washed out. Whatever you're putting out there online, and IG stories, it's a great example, because it goes away in 24 hours. But this live on Facebook and LinkedIn, or the video that eventually goes to YouTube or the podcast player, it's every day with people doing their everyday life stuff, and or going to sleep at night. In some ways, they're going to forget about you. They're going to forget about the content. They're going to forget about your brand. And then it's a reset. It's a reset for everyone the next day. And that's an opportunity for you to build a new sandcastle, whether that's moving it a little bit back from the waterline so that it lasts a little longer, whether that's adding different features to it so that it resists the incoming tide a little bit better, or whether you just want to experiment. You want to change the design. You want to change the message that you send out in the sandcastle that you build. We have an opportunity every single day, or again, twice a day with the tides, to build something new, to build a new castle. But what's important there is that you're coming back. You're coming back to the beach to build it again and again and again, and the next day and the next day, or the next week or the next month, whatever it is. That idea of consistency and forever improving your castle building skills. We're going heavy on that metaphor. Your castle building skills, it is part of the personal branding process. The consistency, it should be number one. These aren't really in order, but it should be number one here. The next one is to reach out. I think if 2020 taught us anything, it's that taking the idea of being proactive and being willing to reach out by other methods, not just the colleagues that we see or saw in the office every day or at networking events or industry events. It's really on us to reach out, to potential clients, yes, but also collaborators, consultants, what have you. Now that can be a little more traditional of a networking practice. Now I know that's online, but groups like I don't know if Young Architect did it, but Next Architects, they run happy hours. Your local AIA, ASLA chapters may do virtual happy hours. I believe it's meetup.com, or there's another one. Was it Tuesdays Together? But that might be local to me here in Greenville. We're running virtual mixers, virtual happy hours with like-minded professionals. That's a great way to meet people that you hadn't necessarily done before. Does that work for client leads? Maybe not. But it's a way to get your name out there, to get your personal brand out there. The other way is to do a collaboration. Find someone that's quote unquote like-minded, and do you do a podcast together? Do you write an article or blog post together? Do you sit down and do a video interview and throw it up on YouTube? Are you collaborating with your clients in a way? Can you create a piece of content with them to showcase kind of who you are and how you approach the project and how you helped them out, or things that they brought to light that maybe you hadn't realized before in your practice. What else? Guest posting, guest blogging. Can you be a contributor to someone else's site, to someone else's publication? And probably the big one for that is podcasting. But there's such an opportunity in podcasts to reach out to not just industry ones like Entree Architect, or it was called Midnight Charrette, and I forgot the new name. Somebody will remind me in the comments. Sorry, y'all. I forgot. If you're ever watching, I forgot the name of your podcast. But reach out to different podcasts, and can you put your brand forth? What can you contribute to their viewership, their listenership, that will build your personal brand? Or are you inviting them onto your podcast? Think of all that media and content collaboratively. That's also a way of networking, of reaching out. It's creating content. It's delivering value out to, again, the industry or to potential clients as they see it in the future. But we need to be proactive, and we need to be reaching out. Our clients, the opportunities aren't going to come to us. We need to go out and get them. And in building a personal brand, that definitely has to be your strategy. Number 5, the last one, is to be unapologetic. Now, I don't mean to completely change your personality, change your viewpoint to all of a sudden become this brash, rough around the edges, uncaring person. If that's not your style, if that's not your personality, it certainly wouldn't be mine. But you need to be unapologetic in who you are. If you are more introverted, if you have different hobbies or skills that aren't the norm, that aren't showcased very regularly, especially within your profession, be you. Just be you and take charge of that and start to showcase that, because it's all going to feed into the personal brand, yes, but the right clients that click with those little different facets of you, they're going to come. They're going to find you, especially if you're putting out the content in the right ways and tagged the right way, and the SEO's correct. They are going to find you, or it's going to help you find them as you are looking into these different aspects of yourself. Being eccentric is okay. Being different is okay. Being you is okay, because at the end of the day, you don't really have a choice. You don't have a choice. There's only one of you on the entire darn planet. So it behooves all of us to look into that and yes, look internally, sit with that, and think about what we can do to amplify that in some small way, and document it in some small way. Doesn't have to be on video like this. Doesn't have to be on a podcast like this. It can be through photo, through artwork, through the written word. There's a part of a longer quote that I like from one of my mentors, Sean Cannell, is that different is better than better. And then following that is done is better than perfect. Be unapologetic if things are rough around the edges. If you flub a live stream, if you knock over your microphone. I've had a couple episodes here where I had a wrong setting on I have a tablet with a stylus here, and I was turning off the camera with my hand, not touching the camera, just clicking off the feed. It is what it is. And again, that's a more technical thing, but if you're not a hugely eloquent speaker, or if you don't feel your drawings are up to par with, this guy and that gal and all that stuff, it's where you are, and it's who you are. So you just have to be yourself, and that leads perfectly into the quote of the week. Can you tell I have young children? Because we have Dr. Seuss books all over the house. Today, you are you. That is truer than true. There is no one alive that is youer than you. Love it. Love that quote. So any other questions about building your personal brand, I would love to hear from you, either in the comments or shoot me a DM, Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram at Jake Krakowski. And if you haven't yet, hop over to Apple Podcasts and leave a review for the show. It helps this growing show get seen and get noticed by us. All right. So until next week, go out and make it a great week and start to build that personal brand, because our success is inevitable. Take care. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you stay up to date with future episodes. Connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn at Jake Krakowski. And for show notes and much more, visit prophetecturebydesign.com/podcast.